All right. Well, hey guys, welcome to our next class. I'm super excited about this master class. This is one that's kind of been on my mind for a while. Heather, you know that. So I've been kind of working behind the scenes, understanding how this social selling strategy works from the entrepreneurial perspective. And the more I was working with it for Author Revolution, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think there's a lot of people who are talking about this from the author side of things. We really need to understand how this marketing strategy works for authors who are oops, let me moving myself around here. So authors who are wanting to understand how to socially sell, but without it being just like promotional stuff all the time, or without it being like one type of content. I know for me, it was very much a situation where it's like I get bored very quickly. And so if I'm creating the same type of content, like page flips, I like peace out pretty quickly. I'm like, no, I just can't. It just drives me bonkers after a while. Even if the content on the slides are different, even if like I'm doing something differently each time, I can't do it for whatever reason. My brain's just like, nope. Mm-mm. So when I was looking into selling for Author Revolution for entrepreneurial side of things, all of a sudden I'm like, of course this is what we need to be doing. Why aren't we doing this as authors? So that's where this whole strategy is coming from. It's not, I can't claim it as mine, but I am claiming that I have been taking it and morphing it into something that actually works for authors. And I've been testing it behind the scenes on myself. Heather's been testing it out. I have a couple of other author friends who are testing it out. And then on top of it, I'm doing it for Author Revolution. And now I'm in the process of building it out for this new company that I'm building for neurodivergent manifestors. So there's all sorts of things that are coming into play. But for authors, it's different from entrepreneurial perspective just slightly. But the thing that we have to take away when it comes to social selling and social strategy is that we are not just our books. We are a personal brand. And so when we take on the identity of a personal brand, social selling becomes way easier because you're no longer just selling one book. You're no longer just selling one series. You are selling yourself as the person who creates all of these worlds. Okay. And when you do that and you look at the way that you can show up as an author, you can do it either face to camera, which actually works really well as an author because readers want to be able to connect to you as a personal brand. They want to see your face. They want to understand who you are. I know most of us like to be behind the scenes and we're like, ugh, why do I have to show up on camera? But it really is that no like trust factor. They like and it's like they don't care what you look like. They don't care if you stumble over your words. They don't care. We are all people and we're just trying to connect. And actually, when you do stumble over your words and you do look like a hot mess some days, there's actually more of a relatability aspect that happens in the minds of your readers. And they're like, oh my God, she's just like me, or he's just like me. This is so cool. And so we need to kind of like drop this perspective or perception that we need to be perfect all the time because that's not the case. And we need to just kind of go all in as the person who knows everything we need to know about our books, right? Because we are the be all end all when it comes to our books. So I'm going to switch over. I'm going to share my slides, but I wanted to kind of give that little heads up on how I look at this whole situation now and how working with this type of content strategy has really just changed the way I look at social media and the way that I look at posting. And not just social media posting, it transcends over into like how you show up in your newsletters and how you talk to people in public when they ask you what's your book about. It's like all of a sudden my brain is like, oh my gosh, these are the like the full spectrum ways of how we get the readers through the buyer cycle and help them to understand why these books are really beneficial. Yeah. See my eyes is showing blank. What is happening here? Can you see now they're showing? Okay. How about can you see slide number two? Yes? Okay. Just making sure. I'm gonna go back. All right. As we all know, Zoom has been crazy, and since we're in Mercury retrograde right now, we just never know what kind of content and computer glitchiness could happen here. All right, so this is going to be social storytelling that sells and mastering the three pillars of influence. There's a lot more that I can discuss on this topic, and I will be going into the on-brand course that I'm building out. But this is like the tip of the iceberg, or the first step, the first thing that I need you guys to understand when it comes to social selling. So for those who are watching this who are not on this call, because obviously you guys know me very well, but my name is Carissa Andrews. I am an award-winning and internationally best-selling author. I am the CEO of Author Revolution, and I'm a neurodivergent strategy nerd. That's my new thing. I'm going into neurodivergence. I have realized I love strategy and I love being a nerd. It is my superpower, and I'm just going to embrace it at this point. So here's what we're going to be covering. We're going to talk about why the spaghetti at the wall approach obviously doesn't work when it comes to social media and why it kind of frustrates us more than anything else. We're going to talk about the three pillars of influence that connect readers and actually sell books. We're going to talk about Instagram and TikTok being the most powerful tools that fiction authors and nonfiction authors, let's be honest, can leverage today. And then I'll give an easy, actionable strategy that you can start using today to make your marketing work for you, whether it be in social media itself, or if you're going to transcend it over into your newsletters or whatever, however you want to use it. It really is going to shape the way that you start looking at how you develop your content. So here's why spaghetti throwing doesn't stick. 85% of readers and consumers prefer content that actually feels relevant and tailored to their interests. I mean, think about, you're not going to sit and if you're looking for a book that is dark romance, you're not going to land on a rom-com and be, ooh, this is the greatest thing ever. If you're actively looking for something dark, you're not going to like a thriller if you're actively looking for something that's light and fluffy, like a mystery, like a cozy mystery. You're not going to want a children's book and then be getting into erotica. Like everyone's looking for something obviously tailored to their interests, right? But the problem is 60% of authors are struggling with knowing what type of content to post on social media. So we have this like huge mixed mash thing that happens. We are often, and this is definitely me, we as authors get into our lane, right? We start focusing on writing and understanding everything there is to know about story structure and all the things and we lose track of, well, what does a reader even care about? Like at this point, what does like I don't even know. Like I could talk about the three-act structure and all these things, but do readers care about that? Probably not. They want to know why the trope is really hot, or why the guy is really hot, or what's going to be the juicy twist that's coming up, or tease things out about what is going to make that book really fun. And so we start to lose our identity as a reader for a bit until we start to come back around and start to remember, oh, we were readers first. Okay, we can get back into this. So this actually really helps. The strategy helps. So here's the reality check. Yeah. Many fiction authors are trying to copy strategies that are meant for nonfiction, myself included. Like I was doing that for especially when I first started video back in the day, like 2017, I started doing Facebook Lives when they first started doing Facebook Lives, and I was like, yes, I'm gonna latch onto this. I'm gonna be one of the first authors to really start utilizing this. And I was talking to other authors. I was not talking to my readers, and so it's because all of that content strategy is tailored to businesses and they're tailored towards nonfiction authors, and so we get confused and then we burn out because we're like, what in the hell? It's not working. I don't understand. So when you don't have a clear purpose, it doesn't attract your readers who are going to love your stories, which obviously is frustrating for us. And then we stop posting. So we need a strategy that is rooted in storytelling and connection. So we're going to talk about those three pillars, and it's going to simplify and energize your marketing, because when you understand those three pillars and how they are in connecting in the buyer's process, all of a sudden we're going to be like, of course, I've only been posting X. No wonder why they're confused, or they're not entertaining the idea of purchasing these books, or they're not taking the action that I'm asking them to take. So let's talk about those three pillars. So the three pillars are authority, education, and storytelling, or relatability. It kind of is interchangeable. Storytelling and relatability to me are the same thing, because typically when you're telling someone about a situation that's going to be relatable, you're using storytelling, but it's technically like that combination is together. So at the top of the funnel, when you're first bringing in brand awareness to your books, you're going to be using authority, because those readers need to know that you know what you're talking about. Readers are skeptical, right? They don't want to just trust a new author just for the sake of trusting a new author. Typically, even if your book sounds good, there's the majority of people who actually want to know that you know what you're doing, right? So we need to connect with authority posts, and we'll be going into each of these obviously more in depth in a second. But they attract your new readers. It pulls people into the top of the funnel, where at least they're kind of cycling around your content and they're kind of watching to see what you do. Then in the middle of that funnel is the consideration phase, and that's using educational content to engage and nurture their interest and nurture the kind of warmish leads, the warmish readers who maybe have read a book or maybe are considering reading a book. And then on the bottom of the funnel is that decision point where they're going, of course, I want to read these things. And that's where the storytelling relatability really comes in because it creates that emotional buy-in in the know, like, trust factor. They now know, like, and trust you. And so they're ready to dive in and purchase one of the books. And a lot of people go through this cycle, especially if they want that connection when it comes to the resonance of your stories. So sometimes people will just opt in, like they'll see something funny that you do and go, oh my gosh, she writes books, of course I'm gonna go check this out, whatever. Or they'll hop into one of the middle ones. It just depends on what they're looking for at the time and how it works, but each one of these posts can bring and nurture an audience, a reader, through the entire phase if they are not sure about you. So let's talk about that first post. So authority. So it's be the fiction author readers trust, right? So at the top of the funnel, your posts here for authority posts should be 30% of everything that you post. Okay. Here's an example of one of mine. So if you're looking to check out like some of the content and figure out like how it looks, if you go over to Carissa Andrews MN, I don't know why I've used that. It's like just been that way forever. I probably should change to like, I don't know, urban fantasy Carissa or something. But that's my Instagram URL, or you can find me on TikTok, whatever. I post both on both. You'll see some of the posts that I've been using to be able to get people engaged. And you'll be able to see more on TikTok, I think, because they give you like how many people have liked and commented and whatever. See what the insights are there from your perspective. But like this one, I'm so grateful for the amazing feedback on Secret Legacy. And what it does is then go through different quotes from readers, what that they've talked about when it comes to this particular book. And now what this does is it shows readers that you're a credible storyteller and that the books that you write are worth reading. It's worth their time, because that's the biggest thing when it comes to readers. It's like they're a little bit skeptical. Do I want to put time into reading this, or am I going to be disappointed? Right? So again, 30% of your content should be building your authority around the genre that you write. So you want to kind of tailor all of that content to be able to talk about the things that make you the authority in that content. We'll talk about that in a second. So what this does is it builds trust over time. And I want you to think about posting consistently, ideally 2 to 3 times a week. But I do have a plan for those who are already doing a lot of things and they're like 2 to 3 times a week posting this type of content, and then the other kind of content and the other kind of content is going to be a bit much. If posting daily is too much, that's okay. I have a tailored down version of it too. Some examples here of authority posts are behind the scenes of your world building or character building development. So like if you are in the process of creating a new book, for instance, talk about your process, talk about how you've been hammering things out, talk about what it is that really lights you up when you're creating this particular story. When you do the behind the scenes aspect of it, it helps them to see that you're actively engaged in the content that you're creating. And then they have that awesome aspect of being able to come in too, right? Oh, Heather had to go. So it's really a lot of fun to be able to be a part of that and see what you're doing in the back end of things. And then number 2, sharing your favorite books or genre tropes that inspire your work. So when you tie them to how it inspires your work is the key part to authority. It's helping them to see that you're actively looking at what resonates with readers right now. Like, how are you as an author tying the work that you do to reader expectation? How do they know that you understand where they're coming from and the types of things that they want to read? Or it's also highlighting achievements like the awards, rankings, or milestones, or in this case, it was the reviews, right? So I sold X number of copies, or I just made Sherry, 25 special edition copies. That's authority. And then you showcase the thing that you have, and you show them why it's so cool and why they should be excited and interested in it. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, great. So I found this really interesting. 72% of readers trust recommendations from authors they follow online. And that obviously includes recommendations on your own books. So when you showcase how your books are resonating with other readers, how like those reviews that are coming in, how they've won awards, why you think the readers are going to love this thing, if they're already following you online, that builds that trust, and they actually will continue to check things out, especially if you give them something to read and they really liked it. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, whatever. Yeah, she's got this. Like I have to go check this out. Okay, so educational posts should actually be 40% of your storytelling. And that this is something that's really interesting because when we're trying to sell our books, typically I don't know if you noticed this, but authority, educational, and storytelling, nothing in there is talking about promotional content. Now, it doesn't mean you can't add something promotional inside of these posts. Typically, what I like to do is have like in the caption part of it, say, hey, this book is on sale, by the way, go over to my website to check it out. Or I do a lot of the promotional content inside my stories. Like, so Instagram and TikTok stories is where I do a lot of the promotional stuff. If I have sales going on, like it's Black Friday literally today, I would have stories going through in that place and letting people click out and go over to, you know, whatever that special offer is, that deal, that whatever. Or I give them the option to follow me in my newsletter so that I can promote to them that way, where I try to keep at this point my content inside of social strategy more towards like literally those three pillars, because that is it sells to them without them realizing it for kind of a sense. I mean, they probably know that at some point you're wanting them to buy a book, but it's not like literally going, hey, buy my book, right? So, education posts, what it does is it draws readers into the content, but it also adds value and it deepens their connection to your stories. So, you can see my example here. It was actually a page flip one. You don't have to be face to camera every single time. Sometimes it could be behind the scenes. Sometimes it could be page flips. Sometimes it could be an image you draw. Sometimes it could be carousels. But face to camera, you still want to be doing quite a bit of it just so that they can see your face and know that you're a real person. You're not, you know, AI is a huge thing right now. And even if you're an author who uses AI, they still want to know that you're an author, you're a person first, and not just AI, right? So it makes sense to show your face. So especially right now where people are pretty dubious about things. So with this educational piece, it was here's how my book Oracle challenges the norms of paranormal fantasy and why you're going to love it. And so you see how it says read the caption. Not everything has to be in a video where you're talking about it or doing a voiceover for it or doing a face to camera. It can be the education portion of it can be just in the caption, or you could talk about it, or you could like there's all those different ways that I just described. You can do it in so many different ways, and it just helps the readers to understand more about your books, why you write them, and we'll talk a little bit more about what it does in a second, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So 40% of your content should educate or entertain with purpose. So both of them go tie together. Entertain with purpose is typically still educating, or it's using using like a TikTok trend, for instance, that's funny, but it's still poignant because it ties to an education piece, even if it's funny to your books or your worlds. So use formats like Instagram carousels because they can swipe through and learn different aspects of your book, or using the captions, the TikTok day in your life videos, just educating them in bite-sized ways really helps them to understand more about your worlds and why they're so interesting. So, like I said, behind the scenes content, so that's what BTS stands for, behind the scenes content. So like how I felt when I was writing this chapter. I could say that about like chapter 9. Chapter I actually have actually. Chapter 9 in Midlife Wolf Bond is where I decided that a curse would be invoked and I knew it was going to piss off a lot of readers. But I had to giggle the whole time because I was like, I'm giving them exactly what they wanted, and at the end of the chapter, I take it all away. And the evil author in me was like, "Woo ha 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 ha." So talking about that and why that was funny and why it was necessary and how it was part of the plot, like that's all something that you can educate your readers on, so that hopefully when they do get to chapter 9, or if they have already read chapter 9, they can be like, all right, so I get why she did it, but I hate it anyway. Like, you know, whatever. Just getting them to understand, and in a sense, it's almost like a relatability post too, right? A lot of these content pillars will go across each other, just as an FYI. Sometimes you're not going to always have just straight up authority. You're going to have, just a little bit of storytelling or relatability in there. You're going to have just a little bit of education. But the differentiators are, with authority, it's really about who you are and why your books are already seen as valuable, like why you're already the authority, why you're already the expert. Education is more about how you create as a creator, if that makes sense, how your worlds work, why those readers are going to resonate, that sort of thing. Number three is, again, book recommendations in your genre, because when you show that you are yourself also a fan of other people's works, it creates that relatability, like I was just saying, where you can cross these pillars, because they then know, oh, they like this thing too, right? Okay, I didn't realize that they're gonna like that, and if they like that, well, then we're on the same wavelength. When I did my talk at Author Nation, oh, actually, it was the panel that I was moderating. We did a panel, and I was like, okay, guys, who here likes Buffy the Vampire Slayer? And half the audience's hands like shot up. It was like, okay, you guys are my people, right? Because now they know, right? Yeah, Sherry. It's like now we know, okay, we're on the same wavelength. We like the same types of things. So therefore, maybe I'm going to like your work, because if you like that type of content, you're probably going to include it in the content you like to write, because that just makes sense, right? Okay, so educational content is actually 2 times more engaging than promotional content, which is really empowering, because when you think about what you're doing with education, you're still trying to promote them. You're still trying to get them to go, oh, that sounds really good. But it's not the same as going, hey, my book is on sale, go ahead and buy it. It's like, here's the emotionally resonating pieces about why this book is going to be exactly the thing you're looking for right now. And then they can go, of course I want to buy it. Like it just becomes like the next logical step for them, right? So that's pretty powerful. And then the other 30% is going to be storytelling. And it's going to be storytelling about who you are, storytelling in a way, it can even be just like you as a person, like humanizing you as a person, because it's so important that readers understand that we're just people too, and we just happen to like writing. And I think sometimes they put us on a pedestal, and they don't realize that we're just people, we're just doing our thing, and we love putting words in front of the other. It's fine. But it builds this emotional resonance, and it helps readers to see, like I was just saying, that you're more than just an author or completely out of their league. There are those people, those readers who are like, oh my gosh, I could never approach so and so because they write books. And it's like, no, we're just people. Just come talk to us. We love talking, and talking about our books is like one of the best things ever, right? So this is 30% of your content strategy again. And so use photos, videos of yourself to bring those stories to life. This particular one was me talking about my author journey. So, like from my first book to where I'm at now, and how I realized that fate is actually like the thing that ties all of my books together. And so it was me trying to explain just like how I uncovered that thread, how I ended up realizing that I love the concept of fate. I love the concept of destiny, and like the chosen one tropes seem to be, even if they are like a subtrope, they're always involved in it. So it's just me talking about like how this is and why it is from like my own personal life. So other examples then would be like personal storytelling behind your latest book, or just the behind the scenes of something that is interesting to you when it comes to your writing style or your writing in general. Again, milestones in your writing journey. So like the moment I realized I wanted to write fantasy, so the storytelling of you. This is about bringing it back to you as a brand, bringing you back to you as a person, versus the education of your stuff. It's more about you and who you are as an author and a person. Showing the behind the scenes of your writing space. That's a fun one. If you go to a coffee house and that you have a favorite coffee routine, or a coffee shop, or because obviously writers like their coffee, or if you like a certain type of pen, or the books that you're currently reading, like all of these things just tie you back to, this person who is going to resonate with the reader because they are so much like me. Does that make sense? So stories, and I'm not talking about like Instagram or TikTok, Facebook stories. I'm literally talking about storytelling. They're 22 times more memorable than just facts or stats, and I think that's why people like to read books. We love the storytelling, and what happens is like the messaging, even if authors ourselves aren't thinking, oh, this is the theme of my book, we still subconsciously intake the theme, and it becomes a part of us about why we loved the story, why we love the characters, why we love the growth of whatever was happening, because it all gets like sucked into our cellular memory in a way that just makes us feel either good or terrible, or whatever the whole gamut of emotions might be. And so it makes it more memorable than just going, okay, all those stats that I just told you, do you remember any of them? Probably not. So it's all about remembering that your storytelling is way more powerful than just giving those stats. And so um, having the ability to tell your story of your stories is way better than going, hey, it's on sale for 99 cents. Definitely a more fascinating thing. So my recommendations when it comes to the social selling side of things, especially from the perspective of like, where are our readers? Are Instagram, because it's perfect for showcasing your book's world, the cover art, behind the scenes moments. It's a visually stunning, typically visually stunning platform. So anytime you can create posts or videos where it looks pretty, that particular platform does really well. And that it's obviously, but like people started posting like their dinners in a pretty way. Like it's like all the sorts of ways that you can make things pretty. So in Bookstagram, you have, you know, the pretty bookshelf or the pretty bookshelf in the book that you want to showcase in the front or like whatever. It's a visually stunning platform, and it has a vibrant book community in it. So it just makes sense to be there and to show up there. And then obviously TikTok. Book Talk is the place at the moment when it comes to fiction readers, especially in genres like romance, fantasy, and YA. So if you write any of those, it's a good place to be because so many readers are there talking about books and looking for new reads and looking for those recommendations. So if you can showcase your content in this dynamic way, it will pull them first of all into your profile. It helps them to learn more about you, to see your content, to engage with your content. But eventually what happens is they are going to go, you know what, this does look interesting, and I think I'm going to go over and check it out. I've had, since I started using this strategy, I've had multiple people now talk to me about how like they didn't even know I existed, and they're so excited because now that they saw XYZ post, whatever it was, they've gone on to read like 3 of my series, and I'm like, holy cow, like, but they actually tell me that. And now there are readers that do that all the time, but they don't necessarily have a place to tell you that, whether it be, you know, on your newsletter or whatever. But using this type of content, it encourages them in a weird way to feel empowered to tell you, which has been really cool. So it's part of the reason why I love using this strategy so much. So some examples again for fiction authors is to use Instagram stories to share quick writing updates or sales. I'll probably be doing the next masterclass on Instagram stories and TikTok stories because there is kind of a finessing when it comes to doing the stories. Because again, stories should have a flow, right? So it's not just like here's a post for today, here's another post here. I'm just slapping things up in weird orders. It's think through, you know, what it is that you're trying to say for that day because those stories only last 24 hours. And I think TikTok it's even less because if I'm remembering right, I think those might even be 12 hours. I have to do some double checking on that, but it's interesting. So it's like it gives you this window to be able to bring the readers through a journey. And so if you can utilize a template, which I do actually have, it helps them to just kind of engage with the flow of the story with again without feeling like here buy my book, here buy my book, or what are all these things that they're posting? I have no idea like how this connects. You know what I mean? You can also create TikTok trends like 5 reasons to read my book and use like CapCut. CapCut has some amazing templates in there. You can do all sorts of funny memes that can tie back to your books, all sorts of different ways to be able to be creative with your books when you understand this type of content. And it's like the more you use it, now I will just say when I first started creating this content, it was like learning a new language. I had to understand, you know, what each type of those things were. And if I didn't understand, I actually used ChatGPT to explain it even better to me about what I can say about all of my books. So I have a custom GPT that knows all of my books. It knows all of the stories. It understands my characters. And so I can ask like, hey, I need to create an authority post today. Here's the book that's on sale or the book that I'm trying to get people to learn more about. What can I say? Like, give me 5 examples of something I could say. And it will go through and it will give me some really great examples. And when you combine that with hooks, where the hook itself, when you're starting the post, is really powerful, the sky's the limit because now all of a sudden you are combining, you know, the strongest part of like getting them hooked in that first 2 seconds on a TikTok or an Instagram, and then giving them the content that you know is going to be beneficial to pull them into your stories. Really cool stuff. Here's the recommendation there. So post 3 to 4 times weekly across your platforms for steady engagement without burnout. Now, when I'm looking at all the different things we're talking about, like ideally you want to be posting every single day, even if it's just one time a day. Um, I will typically post on Instagram first, save the video or the picture or the whatever, and then I'll post it over on TikTok as well. But I do use chat to be able to help me to tweak the descriptions of both so that they're slightly different. And then you're using different hashtags so that they're more relevant to each post or to each platform, because that just helps boost you up in the algorithms on each platform, even if the content is exactly the same. All right, so here's your simple plan. So you don't have to go every day if you don't want to, especially if you're just starting out and you're trying to understand what these different types of pillars look like for us. So I'd recommend doing 2 to 3 authority posts per month. So again, writing processes, milestones, reader reviews, why you are the authority in the genre that you are writing in. Whoops. Post 3 to 4 educational pieces per month. So those are genre tips if you want to, or talking about book recommendations, talking about why your books are the thing that they're going to want to read, what tropes are in your books, why your books might be different or more exciting than other books in their genre, how your book is similar to another book in a genre. The sky's really the limits when it comes to that. And I do have what's going to be going into on brand later. I have like a hook sheet. I have content structure sheets. There's all sorts of different things that I'm working out there, and so there's a lot that can go into this. But this is hopefully giving you the general basis of how it works. Then again, 2 to 3 times storytelling or relatability posts per month. So it's inspiration, personal moments, things that are tying everything back to who you are as the personal brand. And then batch your content to save time, save energy, do it all, like do all of your authority pieces in one day. Like I know for me, I hate having to get dressed and put makeup on every day because most of the time I'm just like, let me just wear my sweatpants and put my hair in a bun and not put makeup on for like the whole week if I don't have to. I hate it. But at the same time, like I don't like looking at myself if I didn't do my hair and I'm using my sweatpants and sweatshirt from yesterday and I'm like, oh gosh, I should probably get dressed. Okay. And so it's better for me. I like to do content batched. And sometimes it kind of comes and flows with creativity as well, right? So if you have a certain type of content that all of a sudden you're kind of excited about talking about and it comes into your mind, like we were talking before we started this call, I was mentioning how I was getting some insights in manifestation. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm creating content today around that thing because it was interesting to me today and that the energy and the creativity is flowing for that thing. And so I know that the energy is supporting creating it. And so you can do it that way as well. Follow your internal excitement when it comes to the types of posts that you create and just knock them out. So here is my mission, should you choose to accept it for you. I want you to brainstorm one authority post to share this week. Okay, so just to get started, just to get the playing with this whole thing around. So for example, it would be, I've been writing, for X number of years, and this is what readers have to say about my latest release. This can be your hook if you wanted to use it. Like you can literally use this and just say, this is what I've been doing and go with it. And so that would be your first couple of seconds worth of content so that they can hook them. Or you could just put it up as like the written content and you can just go straight into why readers are really excited about your books. I'd also like for you to draft an educational post, something like, give me 1 minute and I'll show you why X book should be your next read. That would be another great hook to be able to get them in and go, oh my gosh, heck yes, let me learn more about this. I would love for you to write a storytelling post, something like the moment I knew I wanted to write stories like so and so. So for me, that would be Joss Whedon. I'd be like, the moment I knew I wanted to write stories like Joss Whedon was, and it was actually when I watched Angel, which was weird because I didn't start with a Buffy. I started with Angel because I saw an episode of Angel where I was like, oh my gosh, that was really good. And I didn't even know the history or the backstory behind Buffy and Angel at that point. I was like, who is this guy and why is Buffy interested in him? I have no idea. And it was the one, oh, Sherry, you would know this, but it was the one where they were able to finally be together because he turned human, but then he had to decide not to be human anymore because he needed to continue on and be in the fight. And so he had to carry the memory of like they had this perfect date together. And I'm like, oh my God, that was like so heart-wrenching. And I have no idea about any of the backstory. It was way worse when I went back and watched all the episodes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's even worse. But that was the moment. So something like that. So pro tip, remember that progress over perfection is where you want to be because your readers, they don't care. They want to connect with you. They want you, not an idealized version of you. It's always important to just show up as who you are, warts and all, some days, I swear, and just be okay with it. All right. There you have it. That is the start of our social selling strategy and what you need to know to get the ball rolling. So I'm going to stop sharing and we can chat about how this works. Did that make sense, Sherry?
Okay. A lot of it did. And I'm really, really excited to get into this. Um, I I'm going to plan out like a planner, and I love that you're going to be putting out the hook sheets because I think that's one of the hardest things for me. And so you're talking about your hooks. Um, you're saying what readers are saying about my latest release. So what if you literally are just getting ready, you're launching it, and you don't really have anything to say that readers are doing this because it's like you literally are just putting it out there.
Okay. So if that's the case, then I would be highlighting the things that you know were the most exciting parts for you to write and that readers are going to connect with. Like, here's what I know readers are going to love about X. And so like really hammer the things home. Like if there's a big reveal or if there's a big twist, or I know you're not going to see this thing coming, like whatever you know is going to make readers really kind of perk up and go, ooh, what? What's just happened? Or if you go, I know you think that XYZ is going to happen with this particular person, but keep watching because you have seen nothing yet. Like, whatever the case might be. If you do have ARC readers, for instance, though, lean on them to get those early reviews because then you can use those before it even launches and be like, early reviews are coming in and here's what they're saying. You can do that sort of thing as well. So that's probably how I would leverage before a book comes out because I have like 65 people on my ARC team. Um, but if you have a small ARC team or if you only have a couple of people, still that doesn't matter. You could get 2 reviews and still be fine. Like just because people aren't going to sit there and want to read 16 reviews from people before it launches. So it's like just highlight a couple of really good ones and
Right.
just showcase it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing, um, when you're planning out like Instagram posts and what you're doing, how much of what you're doing should be reels versus stories, since stories are only there for a short period of time? Is
So
there
you're
a
not going to
little
like what I have
thing
to
going on
say.
with that then?
Okay, so here, okay, so reels and stories are completely different animals. So reels are videos of any way, shape, or form, right? So it's either it's face to camera, it's behind the scenes content where you're using like a B-roll, or it's the slides technically aren't a reel, but you can upload all the pictures and it can create an automatic reel through Instagram. Um, but stories, because they are in that one like little window,
Mhm.
in an ideal world, you want to focus more on your stories than your reels and the things like that, with the exception of if you have zero content that is in authority, relatability, and relatability, storytelling, and education. If you don't have those built yet, then I would focus on those first and just ignore stories for a little bit because you need to have a number of those types of content in your main feed so that if
Okay.
people come over, they can see what you've been doing. But stories actually they're almost like the top of the funnel because a lot of the times what will happen is if someone's following you already, if they've been scrolling on Instagram, I don't know if you ever noticed this. If they've been following you already, it'll pop up and it'll be like, "Oh, this particular content creator has new stories for today. Do you want to check them out?" And so
Oh,
even in
yeah,
your
yeah.
even in the feed, yeah, so you can click over, and because they're following you, they're considered a warm lead. So when you have the stories themselves, technically you want to be doing those daily because that will drop you in to that feed. Or if they're just happening to go through stories, some people do that where it's like they just kind of go through the people that they're following, their stories each day. Um, and because the people who are on your stories are the warm leads, they're already following you. That's one of the beneficial parts about being able to do the promotional content and then have a link that goes out where, like, if you're on Instagram or TikTok, you could put the link there, but it's not clickable. It's not something that they will have to either search for it or they're going to have to try to figure out how to type that link down because you happen to put it there. Or if it's in your like if you have a link tree or something, that'll help them get over to it. But it's a lot easier because in the stories you can actually have the link and they can just link straight over to the thing that you're trying to promote. So technically, in a perfect world, I would focus on getting the reels and the content built out, probably at least, oh gosh, I would say about a month worth of content before you even start posting to stories. But then once you start posting to stories, I would want that to be every day and then be posting the other types of content, one of each type per week. So like one educational, one authority, one or maybe two educational if you can, and then one storytelling, right? Because the when you think about it, when someone clicks on your story, they're in your story and then they're already on your page. So then they can look at your page. Most of the time, they're not looking to see like when was this post that they just did on their feed posted because it doesn't matter. Like it's evergreen at that point. But you have to have a number of posts that they could like if they wanted to
Right.
just binge through them, that it does that whole process for them. It gives them that whole buyer's journey from all the different angles. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I
no,
would
that makes sense.
focus on like one series at a time for a little bit rather than bouncing around to all the books. That helps them like if they are binging to understand like that series from a much broader perspective.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense doing that way. I also think you could totally go and do a whole series on purpose of not having your makeup on and just,
Right?
lean into that.
Yep.
It's
Here's what
more
it looks like.
relatable that way. Like I'm staying in bed and this is what I'm reading. And
Right? I agree. I actually do agree. And that's why
yeah,
most like if you look at a lot of the posts that I've done like well in any of this stuff it's like I if I feel the energy for it I will just go ahead and do it anyway even if like I'm in my Las Vegas sweatshirt hoodie and I'm like I don't even care my makeup's like a weird mess but it is what it is like I don't care whatever it's I'm an author like I don't want to leave my house if I
you're
don't have to
human.
yeah
Yeah, you're
yeah
human.
yep
No,
and,
I
and
like
it's not that
that.
I don't like getting dressed up it's just uh, so much work it's like really okay
But
to
I
look
think I
human.
really, but it's, yeah, but think it's really, you're talking about low, no like trust. I
Yeah,
think just being you without being all made up, it really does lend your authority as well as a human.
yeah,
They can relate to that.
I agree. I agree. And it's so interesting because I love the content creators that do that. Like Jamie C is one of my favorite people. She's actually the one that teaches this for entrepreneurial women. So female entrepreneurs. And I've taken a lot of what she's talked about and then spun it for authors because obviously not many people are talking about. I think there's like one other person who teaches authors and social strategy that's similar. Like I've watched her content, but it's different. It's different from this. And so I'm like, okay, I still feel okay bringing this content to the authors because we need more people talking about this type of content. So it complements each other very well. So it's like whatever, it's fine. But it's fun when you see people and they're like, oh my gosh, their hair is an absolute mess. What is that? But it's like you still end up listening to them anyway. So it's like I don't care.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
if the
yeah. I
content's
love
good,
it.
what difference does it make?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm looking at like some of my stumbling blocks is that creative side, like, okay, what am I what am I going to post? What is the hook supposed to be? And maintaining that day after day when you've got 5 million other things that are calling to you to get done, I think it's a little challenging. So I like that you're talking about having these little sheets that you make up that give you the hooks and ideas that you can use for your own posts. It's helpful to have somebody that's like you doing things specific towards author and readers. Is
Yeah.
that you're, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah. It's so helpful.
getting
Absolutely.
that idea down. It's what I might think is like, okay, I might just, show them this slideshow thing, but then that might not be the best thing for that particular day, depending on what I'm trying to connect with them for. Like, say I've got a new release, or I'm slogging out the edits right now on this book, you know,
Right. Right.
and that sort of thing. Like, oh, I hate edit mode.
I completely
So yeah,
understand
things
that.
like that.
Yep. Here,
Yeah.
I'm going to put this in the chat. See if I can move this around here quick. I think this will be helpful for you. See if I can grab it. So this is my hook bank, and I will send it out because I think this will help people with this particular thing too. But so I'll put it in the email as well in case people want
Yeah,
to check out the
perfect.
hooks, and that'll just kind of give you a basis to know. And it works not only with your like your reels and your carousels and your single post images, but it'll help even just to understand like how could you kind of think of a hook for Instagram stories. And if you utilize this with ChatGPT, you could definitely incorporate and say, hey, using this as a template, help me create hooks specific to my books, to the way that I create, or the, what you know of my stories. Or if you have like I said, if you have a sale that's coming up, or if you have a specific book and you want to focus your hooks on a specific series for the month of December, for instance, it can go through and create the hooks that are specifically for the fact that you have it on sale, and then also the fact that it is this series, or like all sorts of different ways you can use this as like a template to bounce off of with ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's helpful because it's just there's so many things going on that you're trying to get done. Okay, well, I feel like I'm behind all the time behind trying to get stuff together. So
Yeah.
having like a little schedule, like you're saying, you batch everything.
Mm. Yeah.
I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I do. I'm in the process of building out. I think I have like a 90-day calendar built out. But I'm designing, so On Brand is going to have not only like face to camera content, but it's also going to have, like if you're camera shy, you could do voiceover. Like they just need something that is going to tie you as a human being to the thing. And so if you're a disembodied voice, for instance, like it is what it is. If you're camera shy, and I know a lot of romance authors or people who don't want other people to know that they write a certain genre, that's probably the route that they're going to want to take. When you can
Right.
though put your face on it, it just makes more sense because that no like trust factor is going to happen faster. It doesn't mean you can't build no like and trust other ways, obviously. So that's where voiceovers and some of the behind the scenes and things like that really come into play, even if you're not in camera on camera. But I do have like options for both, and I have descriptions for both, and so it's like the whole the whole thing is being built out so that it can hopefully guide people. But there's so much this like this is the foundation. Understanding these types of posts is the foundation, and then the strategy of how to implement it is like the next level. And I don't want to freak anybody out because there's so many like little moving parts to it, and things like the storytelling, right? So in Instagram stories or Facebook too, because you can auto post it to Facebook if you want. TikTok stories, it's like you actually want to have somewhere between 5 and 7 of those Instagram slide stories every day. But it freaks people out because it's like, you want me to post 5 to 6 times a day, like, and then still do the reel. But the thing is, it's like once you build it out, it's kind of fast to do. It's actually not so bad, and you get into a flow of storytelling. And if you use I have a 7-day template, and if you use the template, you're creating content that's kind of similar over and over again. Or if you get like really busy and you're just like, screw this stuff, I can't, you could take like what you did 2 Mondays ago and just post those same slides all over again. Most people aren't gonna know. Like you might have 3 people that are like, this seems really similar to ones she did before, but who cares? Like you're still tying them in, you're still giving them an option to go out to buy. And if there's new people that come in because of that, perfect. So there's all sorts of strategies to be able to use stories like that without getting overwhelmed. But we need to start with the foundation first before we go completely crazy. And I definitely went off the deep end when I dove straight into it and I was trying to build out and figure out how authors can use it. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I'm doing it for Carissa Knight, Carissa Andrews, and Author Revolution all at the same time. And I was posting every single day, Instagram stories, TikTok stories, and then all the reels and stuff too. That was a lot. And I had to kind of back off of it as I was getting ready for Author Nation. So I haven't come back into it because I'm building out this new program. But yeah, it's so fun when you're in it though, and it's so fun when you're doing it, and it kind of brings back the joy of storytelling, like the Instagram stories and Facebook or TikTok stories. That in specific, I really enjoy a lot now. Where before I was like, I don't have any idea what to post in Instagram stories. Like what? Like what is this and why? But
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel with TikTok. I'm
yeah.
like, and then you post it up and you're like, okay, I got 5 views.
Yep.
Like, ah,
But what's really
yeah,
interesting is that when you post, so okay, like the inspirational storytelling slash relatability posts, those will increase your views because that's more generally acceptable. So even though it kind of builds that relatability and helps people make a decision, without the extra context of authority and education, they might not take action because that's more for the people who have been following you for a while. But what's really cool is like when you have the inspirational storytelling relatability stuff, it pushes you out further. You get seen, and because you get seen, now your authority and your education post gets more. But it will start slower. So especially on Instagram, I noticed that like TikTok loves educational and authority posts. It loves it just fine. Like you'll get plenty of views doing all the things, especially if your hook is good and you're using like here's 3 ways that you're gonna whatever. Anytime you start a TikTok or a video with it where you're giving them something very definitive, people love it on TikTok. Where on Instagram, it's the other way around. They love the inspirational posts, the ones that are just like kind of foo-fooey and like, like manifestation, right? So just general manifestation. They love that stuff. But if I use the 3 steps or the whatever, it's way better on TikTok. It's so interesting. And TikTok is
that
actually
is
more,
interesting.
yeah, it's been more engaging with so Instagram calls them carousels, TikTok just calls them slides or whatever. So if you're doing the same types of posts, so carousels and slides, you'll find that the carousel, what would be carousel posts, do better on TikTok than they do on Instagram. It's so weird because Instagram started with the,
Yeah.
the carousels and the images. So it's like strange, but it's just playing around with it, getting the engagement up, and you'll see over like if you can stick to a certain routine, you'll see in about 30 days engagement going up. You'll start to see your views going up. You'll start seeing more people like liking your stuff. I get way more people on TikTok like liking and following me than on Instagram, unless I say don't forget to follow me. It's like on Instagram, they forget to follow you. They like your content, but you have to specifically say don't forget to follow me before they actually
Wow.
take action. Yeah, it's weird. So there's a little side note tip as well. So if you want to check it out and just kind of get some ideas, both Carissa Andrews and Carissa Knight have been working on this type of content. Oh gosh, we'll probably start in August. So we're sitting here at almost December, although I didn't post a whole lot in November. It's just been too crazy with Author Nation and all the things and being sick, as you can tell. Still getting over this stupid bronchitis. But you'll be able to get a good idea of kind of what those types of things look like. And if you look at Author Revolutions, TikTok or Instagram, you'll see how I'm doing the same type of thing, but it's not, it's completely different animal. It feels different than if you, because it's nonfiction, right? Than if you're doing it for readers who are liking a certain like genre or certain trope or certain whatever. So we have to be very careful if we are fiction authors to make sure, and chat will do this to you. So if you're using chat to try to come up with content or ideas, make sure you have your reader hat on because if it gives you content, they're like, oh, talk about like how you write and do your world building and give them the steps on they don't care about the steps on how they can world
Yeah.
build. They want to just know how you world build. So it's like you got to make sure that you're like, no, if I'm a reader, what would I want to know about this thing? Right? So just be a little bit of a task manager with chat if you're using it to help you come up with any of the content. because it still does. It
Right.
does the
So
same thing I did when I was in
right.
2017.
All right. So one other thing. So you have Carissa Knight and Carissa Andrews. Now, are you sort of creating separate brands with that on social? Or are you like, how are you setting that up?
Oh
Makes
yeah,
sense what I'm saying.
yeah, they're definitely different brands. Um, because I mean, I'm still the same me, so like I still show up as me, and I like if I use a filter, for instance. So sometimes I'll use a Snapchat filter if I'm Carissa Knight because I'm romance author, so I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna come in as a persona of a romance writer. So I'll have like a makeup-y one or something. Not always, but sometimes. And so like I'll show up a little bit differently over there because I'm talking about different things. I'm talking about, romance and
Right.
rom-coms and steamy scenes or whatever. So it has to be a slightly different take on how to do it. But the strategy behind it is exactly the same. So that and usually what I was doing when I was posting every single day, I used the same structure so that my brain was already like engaged with, okay, this type of post for Carissa Andrews and this same type of post for Carissa Knight. So if they're following me on both platforms, then they might see that it's exactly the same type of thing. But if they don't, then it's like they're never going to know that this is the same. But at least my brain, it's easier to do the video again, but do it from a different version of myself, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Okay. So you are you're creating separate videos
mhm. Yep.
for each, one for each brand. Okay. That's what I was
Yep.
wondering.
Yep. Yeah, because otherwise it would get confusing, I think, for because you're getting so specific. Your job is to showcase yourself as an author. I mean, you can talk about the fact that you have another pen name over there, and I've done that before where I'll tag my other Instagram account or my other TikTok account so that people know that they can go over and check out the other thing. But for the most part, I'm talking specifically about myself as I'm writing this genre of books or this particular books. I mean, because sometimes you get as granular as that book and those characters and why it was so interesting and how it was tied to you and whatever the case might be.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, and all of your research in Sleepy
Ah,
Hollow, for instance, I'm going to tell you from
yes.
like my perspective, I want to hear about that because that sounds freaking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun. And
Yeah.
I started taking, for when I did my featured author book club thing, I created, um, photo pages that I took with little captions. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to start taking my signings. So
Yeah.
then that sort of created some discussion with people. Um, yeah, so that's something I would like to put out more on the social. I put a few little things, but I feel like I am doing that spaghetti on the wall thing because I
Yep.
don't have a structure to follow.
Yep.
Like, I don't
Yep.
know what to do. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I'm
Well,
waiting for
hopefully this
everything
gives
to
you a
come.
good, yeah, hopefully this gives you a good structure so that you can at least see how much of each thing that you could be posting per month and just start with the basic one that I gave you at the end there where it's like, just scale it back. Don't overwhelm, especially with Christmas and everything. Don't overwhelm
Yeah.
yourself. Just get used to the type of content, but know that eventually what would be the most ideal is to be posting every single day um for your normal post. So the normal feed for Instagram and TikTok and just use the same one, just see if you can have chat change up your description but then eventually get to the point where you are also posting like ideally 5 to 7 slides on your stories every day and use trending audio.
Okay.
Yeah. It gets to be fun though. Like I've got because oh gosh, in the beginning when I first started, because I was doing all three and I had to map it all out and I had to like same with you, I had to see the calendar. Um, so I have this calendar that I was mapping out for all three. I it was so funny because it was like taking me a while to get through all of them. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be like the bane of my existence. I was starting to feel anxiety about how long it was taking because it took me around 2 hours to get all of the different videos and then all of the different stories for those three accounts. And I was like, oh my gosh, 2 hours every morning. This is insane. Um, but then all of a sudden it was like I realized that there's a limiting belief there because when I first started as an author, my mom used to give me so much shit about taking too much time on social media talking about books that I didn't realize I had internalized a clock, that there's a clock for how long I can be social talking about my books. And I was like, oh, well, screw that. Like, my mom's not even here talking to me anymore. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, of course, I get to do this anyway. Like, this is my job now. Like, what? And so when I was able to look at that and go, this is my job. This is a requirement. This is like a non-negotiable for getting the work. Because if people don't know about my books, they're not going to buy them, right? And so then I kind of
Right.
like kicked
Right.
that to the curb. But what happens is the more you get accustomed to the types of content, the faster you get at it. And then if you're using chat to help you with the descriptions, for instance, so much easier. It's like all of a sudden it's like this, why, like I got it down to like about an hour every single day. And that's usually using chat for the descriptions. That's using my hooks that I just sent over to you. And then also having like the monthly plan and a weekly plan. So I do like a quick like monthly broad perspective so that I could understand each of the three different types. Um, and then I also had like a weekly plan so that I could see here's the post then that you're going to post today for like the reels and the, whatever, if it's going to be behind the scenes, if it's going to be face to camera, if it's going to be, whatever, a slideshow or whatever. And then I also had like the slides so that I went through with chat like to decide like what's going to go on each slide. How is this going to work? And so I have a template for that as well. So don't all I want you to know right now is what we've taught today though,
Yeah.
but there
But what?
is more coming.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to seeing what else you're doing because it's that little bit of overwhelm right now.
Yep.
Um, so I want to start with the first piece. Start with the first
Okay.
piece. And for me, I want to be able to know how to organize it. So yeah, I like that what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so then I have a question for you. Would you rather for December's masterclass, because I'm going to try to kick that one off in 2 weeks. So on the 13th, so that way we get it out of the way before Christmas. Would you rather I go into like story structure, so meaning like actual like Instagram stories, TikTok stories, or would you rather I show you how to organize the content? Or would it make more sense to show you the stories first and
Ooh.
then organize would be like January because you need to understand the structure for
Yeah,
stories?
probably. Yeah, yeah, I think so because it would give me an idea of knowing how long it takes for me to do those certain items, the certain stories, the type of
Yep.
stories, the type of posts, and then later how to organize it and going, okay, I'm going to spend this day doing this, and then I can plan out my calendar that way. Because
That makes
there's
sense.
just I work everything for me is in blocks of time,
Hmm.
and I squeeze things in when I
Yep.
can.
Yeah.
So I might not be able to get all my content together in
Yep.
one day,
Yep.
if that
Well, the
makes
cool
sense.
thing is
Yeah.
with Instagram stories, like what I would recommend is like for every series that you've got, creating a week's worth of just bland generic content that is based off of the story structure first, right? So don't even
Okay.
think about um, promotional calendars or anything yet. Like just have like your basis of like those 7 days worth of Instagram stories, TikTok stories, because you can use them on both. So that way, if you ever have a day or a week that gets really crazy, you can either A, post it yourself real quick and like you don't even have to change anything. You just add the link or the quick little engagement piece, and then you're off on your day, and you're like, that's it. Like that this is my minimum of what I get to do. Or you just decide on which post, like even if it's just one post that you're going to do in your Instagram stories, you always want to have at least something in there when you're actively trying to pull in readers or get them to understand something. So there just needs to be I guess that mindset of like it's non-negotiable, I have to do this, but there is a minimum I have to do so that you don't overwhelm yourself and feel like, because I do that where it's like I think, oh my gosh,
Right.
I have to
Right.
tell between 5 and 7, and then I will still push myself to do 5 and 7 and then be like freaking out because the day is like you know what I mean? I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
And so I
I do
have to
know.
tell myself, yeah, I have to tell myself like it's okay if you just do one. Like
Yeah.
you
One's
won't
better than
die.
none. Yeah. One is better
Exactly.
than none.
And
All
I
right, so
tell,
another a technical question
yeah.
before I let you go here. When you're creating your video content, are you just using your phone to
Mhm.
record everything and just like
Yeah.
put it on a stand and do whatever? Okay.
Yeah. I usually
And then
hold my
the
phone because I'll be in a place or a location where like a stand just doesn't make sense. I think with more of my nonfiction stuff, I have like a phone stand over there that I can use that has like one of those big light things on it. But usually I'm still just holding my phone or setting my phone down and looking at it that way. But I use oftentimes Snapchat is what I use because I like
okay,
the lighting filters that come through that. So not necessarily the makeup, but I like the lighting that some of them have because my house is kind of dark, especially in the winter time. So even if it's daytime, it's
right,
like half the time it's dark in my house, and it just lightens it up a little bit, and I like the lighting. And so I'll use that a lot. And what's nice about it is it saves it in its like own memory in Snapchat. So like if you ever need to go
gotcha.
back and see some of those photos and you can't find them like in your camera roll or something, you can find them a lot easier in Snapchat itself.
Oh,
So I
that
use
I'm not
Snapchat.
on Snapchat, so I'm gonna have to go
Okay.
investigate Snapchat.
Yeah,
Okay,
you don't have to. I mean, you could just use your normal phone too and just save it. I know with Apple, I've been trying to find the best way to sort everything with like Apple Photos to be able to like sort the content and organize it. I think I've gotten that down to the point where it's like if I needed to find the content, I could find it pretty quickly
hmm,
now. But I have a lot of folders at this point. And so it's like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
because I have
So are
I have
you
folders for
then?
everything.
So when you're posting from your phone. So you're
Hmm.
taking the things that are like the folder on your phone.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
All
Everything's
right.
everything's from the phone, which is a little bit putzier in my opinion, but it's because Instagram and TikTok are so mobile heavy. In order to do especially with stories, in order to do it properly, you have to do it from your phone and from the mobile device. So
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
Just a
So
little
we'll
bit of
definitely get more
practice.
technical, and I'll showcase how to do that. I'll think about how we're going to do that with the next one, but we'll talk about Instagram stories and TikTok stories in the next masterclass so that I can show
Perfect.
you how it's done and give you the template for it.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate
You
it.
bet. You
Good
bet.
session. Everybody's
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you.
All
All right,
right.
we will
All
we will
right.
see you again soon. Have a great weekend.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.